It wasn't the most perfect performance for the Kentucky Wildcats, and yet Mark Pope's squad still almost dropped 100 on the Division II national champion.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we are going to be recapping Kentucky basketball's 98-67 win over Minnesota State in their second and final exhibition game before the season starts. I am super excited that now, from here on out, we're talking about basketball that matters, but we're going to recap Kentucky's 98-67 win today. Going to talk about the positives, going to talk about the negatives. There were some interesting points in this game that I do want to address and just be aware of as we head into the season. Just things Kentucky needs to adjust. Some positive things that I think the Wildcats can take away from this game as well, just as far as individual performance goes. Overall, hey, you almost scored 98 points and you didn't look perfect. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app. You can create an account. And you can use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. You can download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. I want to say here off the top, I want to apologize to you guys. I have had the flu for over a week now, and there have been some days where I just have physically not been able to record an episode. I haven't been able to speak, haven't been able to talk without coughing a ton. We'll see how today goes. I've still had some pretty bad coughing fits, but I have the ability to pause the episode, the recording, whenever I want. So we're going to take this at my pace today, and hopefully you guys will be able to take some things out of what I have to say about Kentucky basketball's win tonight. Again, 98-67 was the final score. Minnesota State scoring 44 points in the second half to make this one a little bit closer than maybe the final score indicates. Kentucky didn't shoot well in this game. That's the first thing I want to address here off of the top. The Wildcats still managed to score 98 points despite that. Now, we'll get into the individual shooting performances. We'll get into the individual players in the second half of the show. But off the top here, 35.1% from beyond the arc. Kentucky started this game very cold from three. In fact, in the first half overall, Kentucky was shooting 33.3%. They ended up shooting, again, 35.1 for the game, 38.5 in the second period of play. There was one player, and again, we'll address him later, but there was one player that went ballistic from beyond the three-point line. I think Kentucky fans should be very excited about the fact that he was able to do so, but the rest of the team really stumbled. And I think that there's not a huge negative to take away from this. It's just something to acknowledge that, hey, Kentucky's going to have off nights. They're going to have games where the team doesn't shoot well. But to kind of counteract that, contradict that, the way Mark Pope has built this team, and he's talked about this himself publicly, he built one of, if not the best shot-making team in the country. Just because you have 7 guys go flat on a given night doesn't mean you don't have 2 more answers that you can give the ball to, and not just give them a couple of shots, give them volume, okay? Find some efficiency, and also let them take 7, 8, 9, 10 shots and be very efficient in doing so. Kentucky's got shooters on this roster. Yes, they're going to have games where they struggle, but they're also going to have games where just a couple of guys are enough to pull out a victory. And tonight, you were lucky enough to be facing off against a team that is very good in Minnesota State. Don't get me wrong. They had some tough shots in this game. But at the same time, it's a Division II opponent. You're going to see teams like Wright State and then Bucknell and then Duke that are really going to test you in ways that these first 2 exhibition opponents haven't. You didn't shoot well. You still scored 98 points. You had somebody go off. Overall, I think there are more positives than negatives to take away from this. Just be aware of what Kentucky is offensively. They can be hot, but they can also be cold, as could any team. I think Kentucky's ceiling is just a lot higher than maybe some other offensive team or some other teams out there, just period. The defense was not phenomenal. Minnesota State was 11 of 28 from 3 in this game. They shot 50% in the second half from the floor. I believe they shot actually like 57, 56% from 3. I think 8 of 14 from downtown in the second half. Kentucky had some issues in transition. They just simply were undisciplined when it came to stepping out on kick-out threes. It looked like at different times players, particularly ones that play in Kentucky's front court, and I'm not naming names, it's just literally everyone, was just kind of non-committal when it came to going and actually contesting a shooter whenever the ball went out to their man from beyond the arc, because they just didn't really go out and contest that shot, and it led to some pretty open threes getting hit. There were also some really tough shots made where there were hands and faces, and yet there were guys on Minnesota State that were still able to get shots to fall. That is not something that is shocking. They have a good squad. You're going to see teams that Kentucky faces all year have guys that hit some tough shots, even if you are playing good defense. Overall, I think there were some intensity issues. There were definitely some energy issues in the first half. I'd like to see that cleaned up. You would expect Kentucky to play better against better competition. I don't think that this is a lingering issue, just something to be aware of. All of this to say, I think you got a B- effort from the Wildcats today, maybe a C+ B- effort, and yet they still scored almost 100 points, and they, according to the box score, essentially dominated at the end of the day. As a Kentucky fan, you cannot be upset with that, especially what you saw against Kentucky Wesleyan. Obviously, this is not Kentucky Wesleyan. It's a much better team. But you have to be pleased. Heading into the season, given a new head coach, a new staff, a completely new roster, this looks like a competent product. This looks like a competent team. And they played well enough tonight to win by a large volume. Let's hope that they're able to continue to do so even until they face Duke. They've got 2 official games before that matchup. All right, we're going to talk about individual performances here. I've got some positives, some negatives, some concerns, but some individual performances that really impressed me, though. Before we talk about, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Game Time. You guys know this pretty well as fans of Kentucky basketball. There's almost nothing, and I mean nothing, better than going and watching your favorite team play live. Rupp Arena is absolutely incredible. It is one of the best places to go in all of sports to witness a team play live, and Game Time is the place that you need to go to get your tickets to go see the Cats play. Game Time has this new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Kentucky obviously opening up the season here soon against Wright State. Game Time would be the place for you guys to go to check out some tickets. It is the place to go, and it's super, super easy. They've got all-in pricing. They've got views for your seat. They've got the lowest price guarantee, which means Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a ticket in the same section and row for less elsewhere. It is so convenient, super awesome. I've loved using them for college football, college baseball, college basketball, college football. I've used them for MLB tickets. I'm probably going to use them for NFL tickets here, probably early in 2025, whenever I'm able to actually schedule out an NFL game to go to. But live events are so incredible, and Game Time is the place that you need to go to get your tickets. You can take the guesswork out of buying any tickets with Game Time Picks. You can download the Game Time app, you can create an account, and you can use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I had to pause for a minute to take a sip of water, but continuing along here on the Wednesday edition of Locked On Kentucky, Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Some thoughts from Kentucky basketball's 98-67 win over Minnesota State. Kentucky did not play the best, and yet they were still able to dominate by a final score of, again, 98-67. Should Minnesota State have gotten to 67? Probably not. They hit some tough shots down the stretch. Kentucky went pretty cold whenever they started to sub players out. It's to be expected in a game like this. Does not shock me at all. Where one team gets cold, the team that was down by so much kind of warms up towards the end. It's just part of it. But there are some individual performers that I do want to highlight here, and it starts with the guy that I started with last game, Jaxson Robinson. He played amazingly yet again. And I know that Robinson's role has essentially been reduced to, in a lot of people's minds, just as a scorer. And yes, he is going to do that. He's going to provide you points, as he did in this game. He led all scorers with 24 points. But in this Mark Pope offense, as he did a little bit at BYU last year, and I think he's going to do even more so this year, he's also going to grab you boards. He's going to get some assists. He's going to create some stuff on defense. Overall, he's going to be a more versatile player. And tonight, it was the scoring that got things going. 24 points, 8 of 13 from the floor, 8 of 12 from beyond the arc. He was the only player to really get anything going from three. Again, 8 of 12, just locating to different spots in transition and just killing it. 6 rebounds, 3 assists. Again, the points, it's going to be what everybody focuses on. But I want to take you to his plus-minus stats and then the rest of what individually he did. I want to remind you again, kid had 6 rebounds. That was, just making sure here that I wrote this down correctly, that was the most on the team out of anybody. Nobody had more than 5. Robinson had 6. He had 3 assists, and then he had 2 steals to go along with that as well. His plus-minus was plus 39. That was second best on the team, only behind Lamont Butler, who had a plus 41. Do you know what that means? That means defensively, he was getting after it, and he was creating stops. He wasn't just creating steals, he was creating stops. The big thing, and we're going to talk about this when we talk about Brandon Garrison, the big thing about Kentucky that they didn't do a season ago, that I think they're going to do a little bit better this year, is contest shots. Yes, Kentucky led the nation in block percentage last year, according to KenPom. Who gives a crap what you do in terms of block percentage whenever you're still a mediocre rim protecting team? That's what also KenPom said, which those things you may say contradict. They simply don't. You have to be a shot contesting team. You don't have to be a shot blocking team. You have to affect the shot first. Yes, good teams will block shots as well. I'm not saying that you can't block shots. I'm saying that you have to contest all shots. You can't just give effort some of the time like Kentucky did last year. You have to do it every single play. That's something that Jaxson Robinson did tonight. Both ends of the floor, really, really solid in my opinion. Otega Oweh, in my opinion, is Kentucky's best small forward right now and may be one of the best players on the team. He may be the best overall player on the team. 15 points, 7 of 8 from the floor. He had 3 rebounds. He had 6 assists. He had 3 steals in just 20 minutes of play. If he was allowed to play more, he'd average over 20. And I know that there are going to be games where he's not as efficient, but this is twice now that Oweh has been able to get his buckets and dominate by just bruising his way to the rim. I know that Robinson reminds us of Antonio Reeves in the fact that he's kind of quietly able to get his points at certain spots. Oweh reminds me so much of Reeves from this past season and the way that he just knifes to the rim and finishes, dude. Now, Oweh's a little bit more physical in that. He's just bulkier and a similar height to Reeves. But man, is it impressive. Smooth, buttery, efficient. Again, 7 of 8. Missed his only 3, but he's not a big-time three-point shot taker. We've noted that from his time in Oklahoma. He's not going to be a big-time volume three-point shooter, but man, 7 of 8 from the floor. If you can get 50% efficiency from this guard, you can up his volume a little bit. He'll give you defense. He'll give you a 6 assist like he did tonight. That was tied for the team lead alongside a player that's back, by the way, Kirk Carissa. In 16 minutes, Kirk Carissa had 3 points, was 1 of 4 from the floor, but he had 6 assists to go along with 4 rebounds. No turnovers. Decent stuff from Carissa. Not mad at it at all. People said he was going to be chaotic. Hey, look, 6 assists, no turnovers. I'll take it. Had some really good passes in the game, too, like all over the place. He was fun. But Oweh, man, he's Kentucky's best small forward right now. Robinson, I think, is Kentucky's shooting guard. And the only reason I categorize that like that in my mind is because of the fact that Robinson shoots more threes, right? I think he's just more of a shooter. And so shooting guard, as the late Kobe Bryant said, if I'm not mistaken, it's in the name. He might not have been one to say that. Maybe I'm mistaking the quote there, but it's in the name. Robinson is a 2 in my mind. Oweh is a 3 just because he plays more bruising style of play. It makes more sense for him to, like, in my mind, categorically kind of slide down in the rotation. So Oweh, man, he's gonna be good this year. He's going to be an X factor this year. And then next season, I just hope Kentucky's able to keep him because that's a first-team All-SEC player. Hey, and if Kentucky has a special season this year, the national media will gas him up to the point where they'll be like, yeah, that's a first-team All-American. That's a second-team All-American type guy. Because he's just that good. He will just end up being – he has that ceiling is what I'll say. He has that ceiling. And then the final positive I want to talk about here, obviously there were some good performances tonight, but the final big positive I want to talk about is Brandon Garrison. So Amari Williams only played 3 minutes in this game, recorded 2 rebounds, and that was it. Because he had, I think, a knee injury. According to Mark Pope, the x-rays look good. So I think he'll be fine. He was back out on the floor riding a bike just a little while after he hurt himself. But Williams had to come out. So Garrison had to play a lot of minutes. So did Andrew Carr, by the way. They had to essentially split time there. And, Kentucky's defense, wasn't elite. But Garrison held it down. And he did something that, again, I want to reiterate from what I said earlier about Robinson. He contested shots. He didn't just block shots. He had 1 block in this game. One of Kentucky's 3 blocks on the night. He got out there, and he put his hand... Excuse me. Woo. Yep, I'm still sick. He got up there, and he put his hand up for the block or to stop the shot, and it altered the trajectory of it. It was good. It was good defense. 12 points, 6 of 9 from the floor. He took another 3 in this game. I guess he'll hit one at some point. I don't know if that's what Kentucky wants him to be doing. But okay. 12 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block, 1 steal. Ran the floor with that steal, I might add. Almost finished with a left-handed layup. Good performance from a backup center. It was good. I was impressed. Carr finished with 14 points on 5 of 7 shooting. Lamont Butler, 6 points, 5 assists, 2 rebounds, 1 block, 3 steals, and 21 minutes of play, plus 41 in the plus-minus there. Colin Chandler, 7 points, 2 of 5 from the floor, 1 of 4 from 3, not great. 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Oweh, Butler, Robinson, Carr, Chandler, and Carissa all finished with 3 assists or more, which is really impressive. 28 assists there on 37 made baskets, which is awesome. You also look at something that may be a little bit of a concern. Kobe Brea, one of 2 Cats to finish with a negative plus-minus here in this game. Travis Perry, -8 in just 6 minutes. Of course, I was right at the end. But Kobe, 7 points. He played 19 minutes. He was 2 of 8 from the floor, 1 of 5 from 3. Just not great decision-making from Brea so far through 2 exhibition games. Just not the shot selection that I think you want. Kind of rushing himself at times. Hopefully he's able to get that under control. I have a lot of confidence in him, but it is weird. It is definitely weird. So you got some good performances, you got some bad ones. Overall, you still won by 30. You've got Wright State on Monday. Let's get it. Super excited to cover this Kentucky basketball season again. I apologize to you guys. I've been so under the weather recently, like bad. This is the worst I've felt in a year plus, in a long time. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you got any comments about how Kentucky performed, you can leave that in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I am so excited to get to cover this team. So excited to see what Mark Pope does. I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. I'm expecting good things. We'll do, obviously, some preseason stuff. We'll do some schedule previews and predictions. I don't think I've put my official record predictions out there just yet. But now that we've seen the Cats on the floor, maybe I'll throw some stuff out there. Who knows? All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_. You can follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, you can leave those in the YouTube comments below. You can hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Have a great rest of your day, and God bless.